Welcome to Level Up Real Estate Investing Podcast with Robert Hyder. This is a no-fluff podcast where we dig deep into the journey of scaling your real estate investing and wholesaling business and discuss how to break into commercial real estate investing. Robert Hyder here with Level Up Real Estate Investing Podcast. For those who don't know me, I'll go through my journey a little bit here. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, a lower middle class family. First member of my family to traditionally go to college. Out of college, I got into commercial real estate finance. It worked out really well. I was one of the youngest vice presidents of commercial real estate lending in St. Louis at the age of 25. During my time, I underwrote over $1 billion in commercial real estate deals. And then transitioned into full-time entrepreneurial real estate investing in 2013. When I got into real estate investing personally, I focused more on real estate rehabs, did some rentals and wholesales as I was trying to learn the wholesaling game. I quickly realized that the wholesaling side of the business was more scalable, focused on that heavy, and over the 6 years had exponential growth. In 2019, we will have purchased over 200 houses for wholesale, as well as running a real estate brokerage that'll do 60 million plus in transactions. We started and have since sold a residential property management company, and we've made a big transition into commercial real estate lending. Commercial real estate deals. We made a big transition into commercial real estate deals. We own and manage over 110,000 square feet of commercial space, as well as 60 plus residential doors. And the reason I go through all this for you guys is to get into the mission of this podcast, the real reason that I'm here. This is for next level thinkers. We're gonna be talking about the newest ideas, the most innovative stuff. We're gonna be talking about the 1% and 2% difference, the it factor, the edge, the stuff that really makes some investors great while other investors fail. We're gonna be digging deep into work-life balance, mindset. We're going to be having interviews with some of the top folks in the industry, both in the residential and commercial real estate investing sectors, as well as high-level finance guys, maybe even tech guys that have scaled big businesses. If you want to be the best investor that you can be, and you want to get opened up to folks that are doing huge things, how they think, how they make decisions, how they process data, you're in the right spot. Holy hell. Sean Terry's interview here is amazing. It's honestly so much content. We went on for so long that I'm going to have to break it up into 2 episodes. And here we go with episode 2.
That's one part of the edge is give what you want. Give what you seek, right? You seek money, help other people make money. You seek love, give love, and guess what? Love will come back. If you whatever you seek, whatever you're looking for, give it to somebody else, and you'll have more of it than you've ever dreamt possible. That's number 1. Number 2, as you touched on it too, is work ethic, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not the smartest guy. Honestly, you're way smarter than me. I get it. Both of us took an SAT or an ACT or whatever they're called, right? You would get way better on that exam than I would, right? If we took math tests or whatever, you would pass way better. So when it comes to intelligence and smart, you have way more, and there's people watching right now that have way more than I do or ever do. The biggest separator is I'll outwork you, right? Will Smith says it. He says it. He goes, "I'm going to get on a treadmill. If you and I get in a treadmill, guess what? I will die before I get off that treadmill, right? I will die." And I take the same exact mentality. I only need 6 hours of sleep. I squeeze every ounce of every minute out of every day. I schedule my day from 5:30 in the morning to 6 o'clock at night in 15-minute increments. I have 0 white space in my day. I have a ton of stuff I want to accomplish, goals and things I need to do and want to do and aspire to make happen. And I don't have time to mess around. And I'm on a mission to go out 110%, and I'll work anybody, and I'll do it for long periods of time.
Yeah, that is so huge. There's so many takeaways there. That's fantastic. And you probably give yourself less credit than you deserve there on the intelligence side. I think you're a hell of a lot sharper than you give yourself credit for. I know. Here's the only thing. If you do it wrong enough,
and you do the after action reports that we talk about, right? Those after action reports, you eventually figure out, right, what is working and what isn't working, and you tend to do more of what's working. So I've just figured out every way not to do it.
I love it. I love it. Well, that's fantastic. So here's the other thing. You are always coming up with really, really cool, innovative stuff. I mean, at the same time, you're just doing what works over and over and over again and pushing the limits, but you're also always coming up with unique, innovative techniques and ideas. Are you looking out to other industries to help kind of pull those ideas into what we do? You know, say on the residential marketing side, say on the scaling, the side scaling up the business, getting more sales folks, training them to close over the phone, all of those kind of techniques. Are those related to another industry? Are you looking elsewhere to kind of get those
not
tactics?
really. It's interesting because we sit in our Monday morning meetings, right? And we have problems, right? And I know if I have the problems, you have the problems, and everybody has the problems. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I usually try to figure out a question to be able to answer the problem. So for an example, like the 3 most important KPIs we've talked about, I know we track 128 different KPIs in our business right now, but the 3 most important are cost per lead, leads per contract, conversion, and then your average deal size. So the questions arise from understanding those 3 KPIs are, how do I reduce my cost per lead? How do I reduce my conversion number? Instead of 1 in 25, I can do 1 in 10, 1 in 12. And how do I increase my average spread size, right? So even if you focus on one question, say, how do I reduce my average cost per lead? That was a question that we pondered on, and we sat in our Monday morning meeting and said, okay, what can we do to reduce our cost per lead? So our Google AdWords was $300 to $400 cost per lead. Our direct mail is $200 to $300 cost per lead. Our other marketing channel, those were our 2 major marketing channels at the particular time. So now you start looking at what other marketing channels of quality marketing channels could reduce cost per lead. Well, that leads into ringless voicemail, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't know anything about ringless voicemail at all. I heard about voice broadcasting, but I knew there was legal issues about voice broadcasting. So I didn't really want to adopt a short-term business model. I guess say you get shut down or you get a bunch of fees and stuff. I didn't want that.
Yeah.
So I started looking for legal ways, and I tripped across ringless voicemail, right? Ringless voicemail. And no one was doing it in the industry. And this was a handful of years ago. No one was doing it in the industry. We started adopting it and using it in our business for about 6 months, and literally brought our cost per lead down to, $15 to $20 cost per lead versus $400 with incredible conversion numbers, right? So we looked at that. And then what we did is we found the software company. We made some tweaks to it. We developed a system behind it. We put it together. We launched it to the marketplace under our educational platform. We did over $2 million in the first 12 months releasing that software.
Wow.
Just to the public, and it changed the way marketing was done. It led to now people are leading into markets with ringless voicemail. It's a legal way to get into people's cell phones for cheap, like 5 cents.
100%, yeah.
We did that, and then it obviously led into code calling, right? And it led into texting, right? But you can't mass text because there's some legal issues behind it and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, do it the right way.
And do it the right way that you can text. So those are ways to bring your cost. So that one question was, how do I reduce my cost per lead, led to multi-million-dollar ideas that literally has been industry changing to the marketplace. Then we asked, okay, well, how do you decrease that conversion number, right? Instead of 1 lead, 1 deal for every 25 leads, how do you reduce that? So we started thinking, well, then I started thinking, how can I McDonald'ize the closing process, right? And there's 2 different closing. There's an in-person closing process, over the phone closing process, right? How can I McDonald'ize that?
Yeah.
We created the 9-step seller conversion sequence, right? And that 9-step is a process of in-house closing from start to finish. We've developed an iPad presentation that brings people through a decision process to be able to understand how comps are done and what happens and to actually move to a close. So we McDonaldized that process, and now we've essentially McDonaldized that process over the phone. So that has now brought us from 1 in 25, 1 in 30 down to 1 in 10 and 12, which now increases revenue. Those are dramatic. And we added in deal structure when it comes to like down payment arbitrage, right? To be able to leave existing, just like we did with with all the houses back in the pre-foreclosure,
right.
Existing financing in place, giving the seller a little bit and arbitraging that down payment as we wholesale it out. Put an entire course around it, right? And it's literally been game changer for people. Then the other one was, how do you create a bigger spread? Well, that's all comes to negotiation and mindset going in. We did some tweaks on that allowed us to go from spreads at 10 to 12,000 to 24,000.
I mean,
so all those, so that's how, for me, that's how I innovate. Innovate is finding a problem and asking the question, right? How do I increase my spreads, right? So now we start figuring that. Then I go in obsession mode, trying to figure out how to increase spreads. And then we find something that works. And if you ask the question, seek and you shall find, right? You ask the question, next thing you know, you'll have an inspiration in the middle of the night, something pop. If you continue to ask that question, ask it. Next thing you know, you're going to start, just like you buy a new car, you see it everywhere. It's that reticular activating system. You ask that question. Next thing you know, you start seeing answers to that particular question.
So, and then from there, you're process mapping it out, building a workflow, and then handing it off. Is that the next step for you?
I'll typically implement it myself.
Okay.
I'll do it myself, figure it out. And we'll figure out the first time we ran ringless voicemail, that was a disaster, right? Because we answered all the calls live, right? So we put it on, we dropped 10,000 drops, right? And all the inbound calls came live. Well, that didn't work because we got 2,500 calls that came in all at once, and my team was ready to quit. So we said, okay, that doesn't work. So what do we got to do? Well, we got to send them to a qualification voicemail. Once we did that, we go, oh, that makes a big difference. Now they listen to a qualification voicemail. They leave a message if they're interested, and they don't if they don't. Right? So once we started doing stuff like that, then we go, hey, now for every 10,000 drops, I can get 40 leads. Now we can process those leads and we can turn it. So it's through implement, and I'm really, when it comes to implementation, I'm a fast implementer. I'll see something and I'll apply it tomorrow, get it in there fast, but I'll do it myself, figure out everything that's wrong, figure out the right way to do it. And then if it's something that works incredibly well, we'll do it in our business for a while to prove it. And then I'll teach it.
Oh, that's no better way than that. So, because that hits directly on the head. You can't scale until you implement the tasks, define the variables, you go back and you read back through and you figure out all the things that went right and wrong. Kind of like, I guess, back in the military days, you were talking about how you kind of have your debrief, or you had a different title for it. I don't know.
After action report.
Yeah. The after action report. So you do an after action report and then roll it back out, probably another one. And then it's tightened up enough that you can take it out to market.
Yeah, take it out to market. And then now you put it out to market, you already have a system in place that already works. Now someone doesn't have to figure out how to do it. They can just apply it and get results.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So
that's the secret to success, right?
Yeah.
It's like what do you do? So if I want to, like, for an example, I in the multifamily space, didn't know anything about it, right? Never bought an apartment prior. We did land, which I told you, land acquisition, but never really bought an apartment. I did research and I knew I wanted to be in that sector. So I had to find someone. And what I did, I seek out someone that was having incredible success, that was willing to teach, that I could hire as a mentor and basically take me under their wing, and I could work with them, right? And whatever the cost. And that's what happened. That's how I got involved. Anything that you want to know, there's someone out there that's already done it. And if they're willing to teach you and you can cut a check for that speed, everything that they have figured out, right, and all the problems they've done, I can turn around and I can hire them, and I can learn all that information and cut down that learning curve. That is the essential. That's how you get great at something you don't know in hyperspeed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just knowing where to go to get that solution. And then when you have a problem, knowing exactly who to call to get that answer. That just stops you from getting stumped time and time and time again.
Yeah, and then you can ask a question and say, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And you get clear-cut, correct direction that helps you overcome that obstacle. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. We run into it all the time where it's like, we literally say, I know I'm not the only person. I know I'm not the first one to have this problem. Who do we go and talk to? And yet, a number of times we don't know exactly who to go to. In your instance, you hadn't found that person first before getting into the scenario where you had asked those questions. That's a huge takeaway.
Yeah. So, and then how to do it right. And essentially we partnered together and bought apartment complexes together. So it worked out for both of us.
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. So is he still your partner now? You guys still doing stuff together?
Yeah. Corey Peterson. He's a great guy. Kahuna Investments.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about him, he's local.
Okay.
And he was a wholesaler that transitioned or evolved into an apartment guy. Mm-hmm. So he came from the wholesaling world and then moved into that. So I attended one of his masterminds and basically paid him for speed.
That's awesome. It's funny to think that, because most folks probably wouldn't think that you'd be out there like sitting in the crowd for someone else's mastermind, someone else's Church of Freedom, extreme freedom event.
Believe me, I'm an advocate of, because if you think you're all that, you think you know everything, I did that before, right, with the whole land thing, and I found myself in a tough situation. So what coming out of that is listen, I've got to be just humble and be in a position of always learning, always staying on the cutting edge, and that is basically what mentality I've adopted. So I don't care who they are. I don't care if they've been in the business 2 years or 10 years or 20 years, and they're doing something awesome.
Mm-hmm. I'll learn from it. That's huge. So kind of digging into that, the more successful you've become, do you find yourself like out there actively looking for more successful people to hang out with, or finding friends that are more successful to kind of keep pulling you up and keep you motivated?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Always looking to, I want to be the guy that's hanging around someone where I feel like a schmuck. And I feel, what I mean? So I'm like, I suck. You know what I mean? I suck. Yeah. I'm such a loser. Right? If you can hang around those people, what it does, it inspires you to do more and be more, and raise your game, raise your level of, and it's hard to find those people that are willing to share what they do and how they do it. But any way you can surround yourself, and I got to do better at that. I'm always, I don't like bugging people, or, I don't want to, essentially bug people for their time or stuff like that. I need to be better at that. That's one thing I need to work on, is start bugging people that are highly successful. But if I really want to pursue something, I'll obsess about it. I'll find someone that's great at it, and I'll find a way to get in their world.
That's huge, because I bet a lot of people don't. They're like, okay, no, I'm at the front of the room. I'm teaching folks how to do things. I'm not the one that's going to be the low man on the totem pole. I'm not going to go to this new industry and ask for help. I bet a fair amount of people have a hard time getting past that, and it's gonna cut their knees off. You're not going to be able to be more successful and get into new sectors if you don't do it. But I can see how it'd be difficult for people. And
then also be coachable, right? And then also lose the ego, right? And just be coachable and ask the right questions, and then actually do it. You know what I mean? Is the most important thing. You know what I mean? So.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool. Well, kind of closing it up here. I've taken a lot of your time, and I'm probably into my fifth 15-minute increment here. I'm burning into someone else's time. So, one question that I think is kind of important, or it's interesting to hear. Everyone asks people like, "Hey, what book or what podcast are they listening to now?" But like, what book or podcast are you listening to that no one's probably heard of? Anything that's just kind of totally outside the box that's really kind of motivating you or providing some guidance to you right now?
I think I have been, and I know, I mean, it's probably not outside the box, but I really love what Grant Cardone's doing right now with his whole business model. It's very similar to what essentially I'm doing. I have an educational business that I love spending a lot of time in, a lot of teaching, doing, being on social media platforms, podcasts, teaching, video, all that stuff, YouTube channels, all this stuff. So I love that whole model. But how he's been able to leverage that into the whole real estate investing side and building essentially a 506C or a Reg A to be able to raise capital using those platforms to raise capital and then put them into massive. I think he has over $1 billion under management right now, which is one of my goals is to have 10,000 units, at one particular time. So, and the way we've been raising capital prior is through a 506B. And a 506B means that, you only can go, you can't publicize that you are raising capital because just the regulation through the SEC won't allow you to do it. Yeah. You have to be very quiet about it, meaning you have to go from friend to friend or people to be able to do it. So I can't publicly put out there, hey, I'm raising capital for this building. This is a return. This is what you get, apply now or whatever, or sure. Here. Where Grant has leveraged that incredibly well, and I love the way he's doing that. So I'm kind of studying what he's doing there with that model. And the 506B is pretty hard, because you're going from person to person of people versus saying, I have this huge platform with tons of email addresses and all the social media presence and millions of people on a podcast, and I can't talk about it. Sure. I can't say it. I can't raise capital about it. I can't do it. And I've been very, keeping away from doing that. So I think on the future projects that we do, either open a Reg A or do a 506C where I can basically tell the world how to do it. And I think we'll have a lot more, we'll raise capital a lot easier, than it has been.
Very cool. Are you doing more of a syndication, kind of one fund, one asset, or are you kind of
Correct.
Doing pooling money and kind of looking at it that way?
Yeah, no pooling. It's essentially a syndication around a 506C. So in this property, it's about 10.67 million or whatever. That particular property, we're raising, it's about a $5 million raise on that property.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then putting debt on the other 5.3 or whatever.
Putting debt on the balance of it. We have a CapEx that's in there, 655 in CapEx. That we're doing. Okay. So that property, putting low leverage on it, long-term debt, raising capital on that particular property. So, and we're there, right? Because we close it in about 2 weeks. So I think we've got a couple 100,000 more. We got to raise to get it done, and we'll close it out. We're good.
Sure.
Anyway, so the bottom line is that those are one and done syndications versus a Reg A, which is essentially a fund. Right.
No, that's really, really cool. So when you get that property under contract, because you're putting it under contract before you've raised the funds, because it's one asset. So how long do you? What now, like at the level that you're at now, how long do you anticipate that capital raise to be? So to build that into the due diligence.
You do a 60-day due diligence with us, like a 60-day close, right? Okay. If you can get. Sometimes we have to pare it down to a 45-day due, 45-day close. But if you can get that much time, you're going to need every single bit of it.
Sure.
Yeah, to be able to raise it and put that together. So. And you can start small. You can start small with $1 million, and raise, $200,000-$300,000 for the property. Or I'd rather go big because you can get large management companies that can manage the whole property.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that. So,
no, that's really cool. Have you ever done a pool of funds, a raise with a Reg A?
I haven't done a Reg A before. We had a transactional funding company that was a 506C that we essentially could raise capital for, but we realized we didn't need to raise capital for a transactional funding because literally it was $500,000. We're just doing, most of the deal sizes were 100,000, 150, 200,000. So we just used our own capital and just funded ourselves. We don't need to raise money, so we didn't.
Nice.
I thought we had to have millions of dollars to be able to do it, right, with the demand, but money's coming in and out on transactional funding. We never had to do it.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, that's really,
but
really
I spent
cool.
$50,000 on the 506C to do it, but never had to do it. But I learned a lot. I learned about syndication. I learned about a fund. I learned about the process. I learned about the private placement memorandums and the subscription agreements and the operating agreements and all that stuff. So I learned the education was worth it.
Oh yeah. No, we've got a full PPM. We've probably spent $20,000 and haven't rolled it out yet. So I feel you. We're about to though, because we've got.
Is it a Reg A or a 506C or what?
It is it was Reg A. Yeah, it was a pooled fund.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Except it hasn't been rolled out, and we've been trying to. kick it around. I'm pretty sure we hired the wrong group. It was 2 years ago, and we didn't know we didn't know. So we're really digging into that now. I've been fortunate enough through my past career to know folks that have a fair amount of capital. So I've been kind of one investor, one deal, or let them put a pool of 3 or 4 or 5 investors together and bring the money into the deal as one group. So that's kind of how we've done all of our commercial assets thus far. But we've got about 10 million on our desk in deals that we have under contract or we have verbals on. And I'm going to be in the heavy capital raising very soon here.
Yeah, so, that's exciting.
yeah, it's been cool. With more people we've been talking to, the more deals kind of come up. We're doing one with Steve Richards and those guys out in Indy right now.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're about 45 days out from closing that one, and it's pretty exciting. With 35,000 feet of commercial space, and
love it.
So yeah, things are coming along.
Well, it's interesting, we're talking about that because when it comes to commercial real estate, it's funny because there's an element of taking a leap of faith, right? And taking a strategic leap of faith. But when you commit, you sign on the dotted line and you submit your $100,000 of earnest money, right? Essentially, the money's not raised. You don't have the money.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
You have to go get it, right? Or you have to, you fund it some of yourself, and then you have to go get the money to be able to do it. You have to go get the loan on it. You have to go raise the capital for it. You have to put the private placement. You have to put all this stuff together. So while Reg A, you have a pooled fund, but most of the time, one-off deals, you're raising capital. So people are, that are not successful, they want to have all their ducks in a row. They want to have everything lined up, right? That's really not what happens in real estate. No. You get a smoking deal, you execute the contract, you submit your 100,000, 50, whatever the number is, earnest money, and now you're hustling to raise the capital so you can get to the closing line and be able to pay for the deal and make it happen. And people once you got to realize that's how that's how this thing is all done, right? It's not, you don't have everything lined up. Everything's not perfect. You gotta kind of navigate your way through it, and that's anything in life, right? That's anything you got to do in life.
100%.
You got to step into fear with faith.
I'll tell you what, and I've talked to you about this before, but my first commercial deal, we had a LOI for 2.5 million. It was 25,000 square foot office building. And then all of a sudden the law firm that was drafting it up for the bank that was selling it to us, the law firm found another buyer. They essentially reached out to clients in the firm and tried to add value. Oh, it's terrible. Yeah. So we had the LOI, we had 60-day due diligence, all was good. And we had it for 2.5, and then it just drug. And we're like, man, why is it taking so long to get the loan doc or get the docs back from the bank's, attorney? Yeah. And then finally we figured out that they were shopping it to other folks kind of behind the scenes. And the bank didn't know, because I knew the bank. They were like, oh, well, they weren't aware, or they didn't tell us they were aware. But
right.
Like
they weren't aware, right?
Yeah. So next thing you know, we get into a bidding war, and it gets bid up to essentially 2.75 million. So another $250,000 it gets bid up, which is like 20, it's like 10% of the deal. Right. Of the original purchase. But the worst part is my closing period was 60 days. Now it's 14. So they call and they say, okay, hey, you won the deal. It was highest and best, whatever. We kind of battle through it. We win the deal. And he's like, but
you got 14 days to figure it out.
14 days to close, or you don't. And you've got 4 days for the money to go hard.
Oh.
So, I mean, and it was a Friday. It was a Friday at like 4:30. I got that call. No. And I literally just drove for an hour, just in circles, just
trying to process, figure it out.
I mean, I felt like I wanted to puke. I was just like, oh my gosh, now what? Like I did not have the capital lined up by any means. Yeah. Like I thought 60 days was going to be tough. And then now it's 14 days.
Yeah.
And it like blew me back. And then finally Saturday around noon, I finally like shook out of it and was like, all right,
let's go.
It's time to get to work. Yeah. Yeah. So found a guy, brought in about 25% of the cash. We were able to get financing in 10 days on the deal. Wow. And got it done. And, that was an unbelievably successful deal. Yeah, there was, we're all in for about 2.85 and it's worth about $6 million. We still own it to this day.
Wow.
100% leased. We got a tenant in there for another 10 years, essentially net deal. So Yeah. I mean, it was the
Isn't
best.
that great?
Oh, it's
Those deals
fantastic.
that you go out, you're literally hanging on a limb by one toe, crashing to your death, hanging on by a limb, and that, I think that essentially goes back to your edge, right? If you have the ability to take calculated, strategic, ridiculously nutso risk like that when it comes to execution on a deal, and be able to actually execute, make it happen, that's where you literally, that deal is a life-changing deal. I mean, you buy it for 2.78 or whatever all in, and now it's worth 6. That's ridiculous. And the cash flow that it's spits off is amazing.
Oh, 100%. It was the catalyst. It was, okay, now we can do this. And it shouldn't have worked. That deal should not have come together on paper. To be able to get it, win the deal, find someone that's going to bring in the cash, get a loan in 10 days on a $2.5 million purchase.
Property, right.
And then get it to the closing and make that all come together with such a tight timeline. It just shouldn't have worked. And then to be able to do it was like, okay, I've got this. Yeah. Now we can go.
And what does that do for your confidence? What does that do for the next deal that comes along? What does it do? It just, you break through a barrier and you go, yeah, bring it on. Now you have that experience under your belt, and it just, the thing is, if you don't stretch yourself like that, you're not building your confidence. If you're always doing less than you think you can, just so perform. But if you do something you don't think you can, and then you do it, that's how you grow as a person.
Absolutely. It was a life-changing thing. And I'm so happy to have gone through it that way. If I would have had 60
now
days,
you got a great story. It's like,
no, right?
Now I got, otherwise, you just have a normal story. Oh yeah, we had 60 days to close it. I raised some capital. We can close the deal. Now you have a ridiculous story. That's awesome. That's
it. Well, cool, Sean. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on. It was awesome episode. And I can't thank you enough. I'm stoked that you were the first guest and ready to rock and roll from here.
First.
Woo, baby.
Love it.
Hey guys, as always, this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Bottleneck Real Estate Virtual Assistants. These guys are fantastic. We've been using them for years in our business. They've really helped us scale. They can handle really any task related to real estate, whether it be for the investing side, real estate agents, lenders, but specifically we use them for our contract to close process, our transaction coordination, also for phone and email correspondence. We really use them for working with the insurance company, working with utility on and offs, dealing with anything in our CRM, graphic design. I mean, really anything that you can need, they work really, really well with that. And the also really big benefit that this group has is they help with onboarding and tracking for that process. So they've got folks here locally in the States that can help build out some of your systems and processes, whether it be contract to close or contract coordination, kind of define the different steps that are necessary when the virtual assistant needs to contact who on that process. And then also the folks here can kind of set you up with a tracking system so that the virtual assistants are responsible for updating the tracking forms, providing those tracking forms to you to make sure that everything is going smoothly and staying on course. Probably one of the best pieces that this group can really do for you. But hopefully you guys like them as much as we do. If you want to get in touch, it's bottleneckrealestate.com, bottleneckrealestate.com, and I think you will be very happy with them. Wow, guys, I hope you got some big takeaways out of that. Obviously, we had to break this episode into 2 parts like I mentioned in the beginning. I'm just going to go through all the takeaways. But so he dug deeper into his backstory than I've ever heard him talk about. I've known Sean for a long time, and there was just still some stuff. There was big takeaways that helped me. So hopefully you guys got some great stuff out of that. He dug into his after-action report, which I thought was huge. I think that's a huge takeaway for everyone to do. Dug into his edge about analyzing the psychology of the seller, building rapport. Talked about how he is growing his real estate empire and his coaching empire, which is fantastic. Talks about virtual wholesaling, some of his systems and processes, how he is analyzing the market and digging into commercial real estate investing. Obviously, he's getting big into the apartment market, which is so cool to hear, and kind of how he's thinking through that and how he tiptoed into it, how he brought a partner in that knew more about it. That was huge, big takeaway. Digs into the go-giver and kind of how he broke into learning traction. It's a model we use every day that is fundamental. It's a huge piece to scaling a business, as well as many other pieces. I hope you guys love that. Stay tuned to the next episode and talk to you guys soon. If you got some good quality content out of that, if you think it would help anybody, please go to iTunes or SoundCloud or whoever you're listening to this on and subscribe to the podcast. Also, please give us a 5-star rating. It really helps get us out there. If you do subscribe and give us a 5-star rating, take a screenshot of it, email it over to info@robertheider.com, robertheyder.com, and register for you guys to win a free one-on-one coaching session with myself or one of our guests. They were nice enough to give up some of their time, so thank you for that. Also, please follow us on social media, Robert_Heider at Instagram, Robert_Heider at Instagram. We'll drop some really quality content there. Also, I almost forgot, if you guys want a free commercial real estate guide and commercial real estate analysis tool, just go to the website, robertheider.com, fill out that brief little form, and we'll email that over to you. It's a really good tool just to be able to analyze deals quickly, understand kind of what's going on, see if it's actually a deal. All right, guys, thanks. Until the next one.